Hi,
Hi, Mario.
I'm glad
How are
you're
you?
back.
I'm back for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where
What's
are you
going on?
traveling again? To Hong Kong?
No, no. New York, Toronto.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hanukkah, you got to visit the kids.
That's true.
Yeah.
How many kids do you have?
I have four.
Oh, they're all in
So
Toronto?
two in Toronto and two in New York.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hi, happy
Hi,
Hanukkah.
Harold.
Hi.
Happy Hanukkah.
Let's think in Hanukkah.
What's that?
Now let's think in Hanukkah.
A little Hanukkah, that's correct. Is that
Absolutely.
Canadian?
Eh?
How cold is it in Toronto today?
It's very cold. Very cold, below zero.
Do you miss it?
No, no, not really. Not really.
I guess you get used
Summertime.
to it.
Summertime, it's nice, but
Yeah, summer's nice, yeah. The mosquitoes are nice.
well, it depends where you go.
Uh, did you have fireflies in Toronto at night in the summer?
But in the summertime, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we also I grew up in Pennsylvania, we had it too, but they don't have it here. When I talk about it, people think
They don't know what you're talking
I'm
about.
on LSD or something.
Uh-huh. Where did you grow up in Pennsylvania?
A small town called Sharon. It's halfway between Cleveland and Pittsburgh.
Sharon?
Yeah,
Sharon.
not Sharon, Mass. That's a different. You ever hear of Youngstown, Ohio?
Yeah,
So it's right
yeah.
across the border from Youngstown, Ohio.
It's the murder town of America.
It's what?
It used to be the murder
Yeah,
town.
yeah. How do you know that? Oh my God! Yeah,
Well,
that's
Youngstown?
Youngstown was the murder capital of America. They had a lot of mafia people there.
Yeah.
Cars were always getting blown up. You start your car, you pray it doesn't blow up. Yeah, a lot of
Exciting.
gangsters. Ernie.
Hi. Hi. Looks like you're back, Abe.
I'm back temporarily.
Okay.
Traveling to Toronto and New York next week.
Okay, we're on Yud.
Yeah.
Amarava. We're talking about whether you can testify for a relative. Ploini bo al ishti.
Oh,
Husband says, Chaim Yankel had relations with my wife. Hu va'acher mitzarfin lahoiko. He and another aide can serve as the two aidim to cause the death of the man who lived with his wife. Avalo lehorga. He cannot serve as the aide for his wife. His wife is like a relative to him. And we learn a classic Talmudic principle, like Kamashmalan, to mefagina dibura. We hold that you can split his words, basically, because we're accepting his testimony. It's the same testimony. We're accepting the same test. We don't, just because we say that his testimony on his wife is puzzle, we don't say that everything he said is puzzle. We accept his testimony on the guy, but not on her. That's the principle of Pagin and Dibur. So the Gemara says, Hainuach. That's the same case that we learned yesterday. When he was giving testimony about himself. Like he said, this man raped me. So him and another aide can put to death the guy who raped him, but it doesn't make him a Russia. Because the testimony about himself, he's related to himself. So Gemara now says the reason why we had to be given the case about the wife. Oh, the same Adam Korvetz Alatzmo Amrina, Eitzel Ishtalo Amrina. Maybe you're not a relative to your wife. Kamash Blondet, no. When we say Ishto Kagufo, she's your relative, and you just like you can't give testimony about yourself, can't give testimony about your wife. Amara. Ploini Bal Nara Mirasa. Chaim Yankel had relations with a Nara who was given Kiddushin. We don't know who she was. We can't pinpoint her exactly, but we know she was a Namarasa. And you have two Eidim who testified, V'husmu, and two other Eidim say, no. When they claim that man lived with the Nara Marasa, they were with us in Disneyland. So, Nerogin. But Ein Meshal Min Mamay. Now, by testifying that she had relations with somebody during Kiddushin, she also gives up her ksuba. But we don't know the name of that woman. So therefore, the Eidim didn't cause her to lose any money. And therefore, they don't have to pay money. On the other hand, if the guy gives testimony, he says, oh yeah, we know at least that she was Bito Shalploini. That identification is enough that v'huzmu nerogin u'mishal min mamon, that the Eidim are put to death and they pay money because mamon lezeh and farshas lezeh. It's not the same person who gets killed and gets the money. He gets killed and somebody else gets the money, meaning the father of the girl. Amaro. Ploini Rava Hashor. Chaim Yankel had relations with that animal. But we don't know which animal specifically. Uhusmu, Nerogin Ve'mishlam in Mammon. Because we don't know who we're talking about, so we can put the guy to death, but there's no Mammon paid. But if you know whose ox it was, Shor Shalploni, Uhusmu, Nerogin, Umishlam in Mammon. Mammon Lezeh, and Nefashis Lezeh. You get the death penalty and you pay money because it's two different parties. We only say Kimle Midirabimine, you get the worst. If it's the same person you're killed for, you also have to pay him money, then you only get one, you get the worst penalty. So the Gemara says, why is that different in the case of Ploini Bal Nara Marasa? We learn the same principle. Mishum Dekobaboy Eloi, because we needed the next case, the boy Rava. Ploini Rava Shoiri. This Chaim Yankel had relations with my ox, Mao. Can he testify about his own property? Ashore is his property. Maybe you can't. Just like he's Karov Eitzel Atzmai. Bosser the boy, after he asked the question under Pashta, he answered, So testimony that a person gives on his own asset is acceptable testimony. Then the Mishnah says, Makos b'shloisha. Malchus is you need a basin of three. Ushvatum, which is plural, shnayim, vein based in shaku. You can't have an equal basin, so mosifin le'morechad, you need three. Harei kan shloisha. But then it says, v'yitzdiku esat tzadik v'yirshiu sarosha. That's also plural, twice. Yitzdiku shnayim, yirshiu shnayim, harei kan shiva. We should end up with 6. You can't have a bezdin shakel, and you add one for 7. So the Gemara says, "V'yitzdiku v'yirshiu is needs for something else." Remez le'edim zomim min haTorah minai. Where is the hint for edim zomim in the Torah? Freik the Gemara. What do you mean? Remez le'edim zomim aksiv kasher zamam ve'asisem lo kasher zamam lasos tachim. We have a whole parsha of edim zomim. What do you mean remez? Ella remez le'edim zomim shaloik minai. If edim zomim give testimony for something where there isn't a punishment that you can give them, for example, they gave testimony that this guy is a ben grusha. So, and then they were made edim zomim. So how do you punish them? You give them malchus. Mishum ditzdikos atzadik v'yeshus harasha, because there's an innocent person and an evil person, v'yayim bin hakos harasha, then all of a sudden you give him malchus? Ella edim sheyeshus atzadik. This pasuk means Eidim falsely tried to say that these tzaddikim were evil. Also, the 2 other Eidim to resurrect the guy, the Mikara. V'shavinu lanach Rishoim. What do you do with these Rishoim? V'ayayin bin hakosa Rasha. You give him Malchus. So the Gemara wants to know v'sepuk le milosan. It says in the Aseret Adibros lo sanecha bracha 8 shakim. And if you're over a lav, you get Malchus. So why isn't the source from there? Mishum davale lav shein b'maisa. Dibor is giving testimony, is not an action. L'chol lav shein b'maisa ein loikin alav. We hold that way except for 3 exceptions. Somebody who swears falsely, somebody who makes a tmura, and somebody who curses somebody else in the name of Hashem. You do give Malchus for that. Mishum Rabbi Shmuel Omer B'Esrim U'Shlosha. The Mishnah said that Rabbi Shmuel holds that in order to apply Malchus, you need 23. My time at Rabbi Shmuel. Amar Rabbi Osir Rasha Mechayvim Misos. It says by putting somebody to death, it says by Malchus, V'aya im bin hakosa Rasha. Ksiv Hasam, Asher hu Rasha lamus. So Rasha. Malahalan, by capital crimes, it's Beser B'Shlosha. Avkan Beser B'Shlosha. So a strict package between words. Rava gives a svara. Malchus b'malka misa oimedes. Malchus is like a replacement for misa. Since misa needs 23, Malchus gets 23. There is a din, which God willing we'll learn when we get to Malchus, that before you give somebody Malchus, the doctors have to come. And you don't give everybody 39. You give them 13, 26, or 39. You have to calculate how much Malchus and how many Malchus they could tolerate. To keep them alive. If after this umdina, he died anyways, that's okay. As long as they did an umdina. Omar, so Rav Ashi said Omar Kra. It says Arba'im yakenu lo yosif. Don't go more than 40. Pen yosif lakosol ele makarabav niklachit lenecha. Ki mechayis agvadachia machis. First, when you give him machis, you give it him on the back. And it's got to be a living person, and not on the back of somebody who's dead. Otherwise, he wouldn't be called your achicha. Elahadisaya amduhu l'kabalestri. Let's say the doctor said he could tolerate 20. In maknosor l'makosar usually shtalish. You can only give makas. You start off with a number that you can divide into 3. Because the 2 makas you get on the back and 1 on the front. So if you gave somebody 20, the kamatami strikes. So you lower, you only do it 18. The machaya esrim v'chada, because if you could do 21, you said you only could do 20. V'chimis ba'achad alemus. You're going to kill him with the last one. You're supposed to patch only a live person. Armor krav nikla achicha leinecha. Achar shalach achicha be'ina. You need him to be alive after you strike him. V'leka. So that's why you have to always give less. Then the Mishnah said, Ibra chodesh b'shloisha. So chishuv loktani. Not that to say, oh, is this month Roy to make it an extra month? Loktani kiddush. Doesn't say kiddush achodesh. Where Bezdin is machris that today's Rosh Chodesh. Loktani ela ibr. That to add an extra, that you add an extra day to a month. Instead of lunar months are either 29 or 30 days. So if we don't see, no witnesses come about the new moon being seen on the 29th, it's obviously going to be a 30-day month. I need a Bezdin for this. Lo lik dishu, not to be makadish it on the 30th day. it's you. If we know that the previous day was 30, then we know Memela La'ava. That if they wouldn't actively do a Kiddush HaChodesh, the previous month will go, and the Rosh Chodesh will be the next day. So Amar Abaya Tani Kiddush HaChodesh B'Shloisha. It means when they establish a certain day as Rosh Chodesh, that has to be done in a basis of 3. Tanamachi Kiddush HaChodesh V'Brashona B'Shloisha. Declaring a day Rosh Chodesh and adding an extra month to a year, you have to need the 3 day on it. Divrei Meir. So Rava V'ha Ibr Ketani doesn't say Kiddush; it says Ibr in our Mishnah. El Amar Rava Kiddush B'Yom Ibr. If you're Makadish the day on day 30 days from the last month, then you do it b'shloisha. But it's achara ibur leka kiddush. If it's going to be a 30-day month, then you don't need kiddush. It happens by itself. Umani, Reb Lezer ben Sadok. Dam Reb Lezer ben Sadok oimer im lo nira bismano. If it's not seen on day 30 from the previous month, in makachno so on the next day shekvar kitshu b'shamayim. It already happened in heaven. Rav Nachman Amar the opposite. Kiddush achar ibor needs shlosha, but beyond ibor ain't sorach. It's if it's going to be a short month, it happens by itself. Veleka kiddush. Umani flimo. Oimer. Bismano, if the Eidim came bisman, that they saw the moilid on the 30th day from the previous, and makachno so. Shalom bismano, if they didn't see it that night, makachno so, because it was a shina. Ravashi Amar Lolam Chishuv Ktani. The cheshbon is what our Mishnah means. Umay ibur, Chishuv the ibur, calculating which month is roy to add and which is not. Since they talked about adding an extra month to a year, like Adar, they talked about extra days to the month. Chishuv Kodesh in, Kiddush Kodesh lo. According to this, you need Bezdin for Kiddush, for Chishuv, but not Kiddush. Mani, Rav Eliezer he. Because Rav Eliezer Omer Bein Bismano, whether Rosh Chodesh was declared on the 30th day, and the previous month was a 29-day month. Bein Shalo Bismano, Ein Mekachno, so Shnemer V'Kilash Temesh Nasa Chamishim Shana, Ukrasem Dror Boaz L'Chol Yoshvei Yovelit Yelachem, Shani Matamakadosh, V'Atamakadosh Chadoshim. According to Rav Eliezer, months are miskadish by themselves. But you have to do a Chishuv. Rosh Chodesh Omer B'Shloisha, that Ibur Shana has to be done with 3, or 5, or 7. You start the adjudication with 3. You do a debate with 5. There's a Gemar din v'goyim b'shiva. So echad omer leishe, u'shnayim mishalo. If 2 out of the 3 say we don't have to sit about this issue, batel yachid b'miuto. What the yachid said doesn't mean anything. Shnayim omrim leishev, echad omer shalo leishev. 2 of the Yoram say no, we should sit to adjudicate this case. And one says no, then they sit. But at that point, we sit aleim od shnayim. In order to do the deal, and they add 2, so you have 5. And the 5 noisim b'davar, whether there should be ibur or not. If shnayim oimrim tzricha, shloshim amrein tzricha, 2 of the 5 say you need ibur, and 3 say you don't, botlu shnayim b'miutin, the 2 go away. Shlosh oimrim tzricha, shnayim amrein tzricha. Now for the Gemara din, they add 2 to the 5. Because Eina Minyan Pachos Mishiva. Now, Hani Shloisha Chamisha V'Sheva Keneged. Where do we come up with these numbers? Pligim Rav Yitzchak Ben Achreini V'Chadi Yimei, Uman Rav Shimon Ben Pazi. V'Amri Lo, Rav Pazi V'Chadi Yimei Rav Yitzchak Ben Achreini. Echad Amar Keneged Birchas Kohanim. There are 3 Birchas Kohanim. The first pasuk has 3 words. Second pasuk 5. Seventh pasuk, the third pasuk 7. That's how we got up with 3, 5, 7. In Sefer Malachim, it says Miro Pnei HaMelech, and Shiva, it says Shloisha Keneged Shomrei Asaf, also Meroe Pnei HaMelech, and Shiva Roe Pnei HaMelech. These are the various officers that stand in front of the king. Rav Yosef, Hani Shloisha Chamisha V'Shiva, Shloisha Keneged Shomrei Asaf, Chamisha Meroe Pnei HaMelech, Shiva Roe Pnei HaMelech. So Abaye said to Rav Yosef, how come you didn't tell us all this before? I didn't know that you needed it. Have I ever not given you an answer when you asked me a question? I didn't give you this answer because you never asked me the question. Okay. So tomorrow, the daf will be at 7, the Nachshir will be at 8.
Shkoyach.
Yeah.
Shabbos,
Good Shabbos.
Chanukah.
Sameach.
Shabbos.
Everybody.